What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday, and welcome to the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Quick Pitch Podcast presented by the Better Sports Network. I am your host, James Grande, and no, I am not joined by John and Pemba. I am joined by none other than the Nico Horner #1 hater in all of Fantasy Alarm, Howard Bender. Howard, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. Absolutely. Listen, it's not that it's not that I hate Nico Horner. It's just I just don't share in the love as much as some people at Fantasy Alarm do. Which I got to be honest, like you liking Nico Horner, I'm totally cool with that. That guy Donnie, who was in the chat room of the live stream, I'm totally cool with that. But you're telling me Impemba is like suddenly he's some big Nico Horner truther out there? Nico Horner is like he's the equivalent to baseball. He's he's a condiment. He's not like a mainstay. He's like, you build your lineups around the mainstays, your main course, your Aaron Judges, your Shohei Ohtani's. Nico Horner's, he's a condiment. He's an additive. You sprinkle a little Nico Horner in. How much money you got left? Oh, well, just sprinkle a little Nico Horner in there. You'll be okay. So that's why I just can't get behind John and Pemba being a big Nico Horner guy. I think that was just to be perfectly honest, I think he was just trolling, man. That upsets me.
Well, it definitely was probably a part troll, but also John. I know he was doing some Nico Horner stolen base bets last week, and he hit like 3 days in a row because Nico Horner had the best stolen base week of his career. So John, betting that every night was profitable every night, right? So I think the fandom in John has come with the dollars, Howard. I think those two things have correlated. Um, so I can't say that, he's making John money. So, instantly a fan because he's making him money. So shout out John. Hopefully he's still making money right now in Viva Las Vegas. Hopefully he has enough to fund the wedding that's coming up soon. But Howard, 12 games on the docket for Friday. Upon first look, like anything stand out to you in terms of Vegas, in terms of pitchers, in terms of anything that we should be looking at? This is both our first look. Um, a pretty standard looking slate. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of weather concerns. Like, what stands out to you upon just immediate first look?
I mean, first look, I take a look at the pitchers who we have on board, and just
Right.
you want to target obviously the weaker team. So the first thing I do when I go to any slate is I look to see who's throwing against Oakland, who's throwing against Kansas City, and who's throwing against Detroit.
Right.
Right? If I can figure out who's and work something around those teams, more often than not, I think you're going to end up being successful. So the first thing that obviously stood out to me, here was Ohtani as the most expensive pitcher. But he's going up against Kansas City, and and I like that. So if you're going to look for Ohtani, then you need a guy who you're going to pay down. And
Right.
oh look, I can get Tyler Wells going up against Detroit. So that was the first thing that grabbed me before I like completely dove in. I do like John Gray against JP Sears and the Oakland A's as well, but from a pricing standpoint, that's kind
Right.
of where I began my look.
Right. And I fully agree. And to your point on John Gray, if we want to just take a flight, we can meet John in Vegas for this segment, Howard. We'll head over to Vegas and meet him there. John Gray minus 205 on the money line on at DraftKings Sportsbook heading into Friday's slate. So he is one of the biggest favorites on the board. Shohei Ohtani minus 285 against those Kansas City Royals, as you mentioned. Um, let's see. To Aaron Nola is a pretty big favorite, minus 275 to the lifeless Rockies. They have been abysmal outside of course, except of course on Thursday they did get to Matt Strom a little bit. Matt Strom did have 11 strikeouts, which is a whole different discussion. But Strom being a mainstay as well, those are like the main spots in Vegas, especially when you're like building your cash games. Let's look at totals here. Any totals that we need to like? Everything's 8.5, 9 runs in Toronto, New York. That's the slate high currently, Howard. Thoughts there? 9 runs being the slate high.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is that I mean it's so funny because you've got a lot of mediocrity on the mound all over the place, but is it going up against any kind of like a substantial lineup? Like it surprises me that the Yankees Jays is the highest total, but
Right.
I mean Kikuchi he could be solid, he could blow up. Domingo Herman could have a good game, but he could
Right.
blow up also. So I get it. You're banking on the offenses doing it over there. The fact that the run totals to me, that when they look like that, I kind of, you know, it's not that I move out of I don't move out of betting mode. I'm always kind of looking at that kind of
Right.
thing, but you know, I have to dive in more. Ironically, well, it's daily fantasy, but you have to look at more of what these
Right.
guys are going to do in these specific matchups. So yeah, Nola against Colorado, I think that's a great spot to be.
Yep.
If you're looking for, because obviously yes, in a GPP you need the win, you need some strikeouts. Um, so really, for me, it's like where am I looking? Um, else on the mound as far as like guys like what Strom did on Thursday was absolutely fantastic. The question
Right.
was, did you expect that because Colorado, fans so much against left-handed
Right.
pitching, or whatnot. So yeah, I'll take a look and I'll see who's up against, if it's a lefty on the mound, I'll see who's playing the Giants, who's playing the
Right.
Padres, who's playing the Marlins.
Right.
Um, I'll tilt or right-handed for that matter. On the left-hand side, Milwaukee, Detroit, Minnesota. Those are the high strikeout rates. So, I do tend to also kind of gravitate. It's kind of funny. I gravitate towards a lot of lefties when I'm just looking for high strikeout totals, if
Interesting.
there are any worthwhile ones.
Interesting. Well, let's pivot exactly into pitcher position because I think it is an interesting talking point. We have 24 starters, obviously, big slate. Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Peralta, the two guys over 10K. I think both of us are probably in agreement that Ohtani is, just what he is. He's far and away the best pitcher on the board and are one of the best in the league. So the price is warranted. But is Freddie Peralta's price warranted coming off his worst start of the year? And now he gets Boston. Boston's offense is good. It's bad. It's good. It's bad. Pitching has really been Boston's main problem. We know. I think both of us are in full agreement. Otani is a surefire play. But how do you feel about Peralta at 10-2, Howard?
I don't really know how much I don't really like it very much. Boston's not a strikeout team,
Right.
right? Like under 20% strikeout rate going up against right-handed pitching this year. So, I kind of look at it in an interesting way there that, no, they don't have great offensive totals overall, but yeah, this Boston team can put up some runs, and we've seen
Right.
Freddie Peralta, in and out. I mean, if I'm paying up, I mean, look, 10-2, I'll easily
Mm,
eat the extra 600 just to go to
right.
Ohtani because I think he's just that much more of a sure thing. I just can't spend that money on Peralta. If he were going up against a team, like the Marlins, who are like huge strikeout victims, then yeah, sure, why not? He deserves to be that high priced. I just don't know if it's worth it here against the Sox.
And not only are you eating $600 and going to Otani, you're probably saving 800 more and getting Aaron Nola against the Rockies here, right? We have Aaron Nola at home against Colorado. Aaron Nola hasn't been good. I believe in the fantasy alarm bold predictions for seasonal. I picked Aaron Nola as my Cy Young candidate, and I don't think I was alone. He has not been. You know the meme, Howard. I'm not that. You're not that guy, pal. Well, Aaron Nola has not been that guy thus far, but he gets Colorado, and Colorado's offense is abysmal. Do you find yourself pivoting towards Aaron Nola at 94? You mentioned John Gray, 91. He left last start with was it a elbow, right? He had the
Yeah.
elbow, but he said he's dodged anything serious, and now he's going to make his next start 6 days later.
Yeah, I'm
Both
always
those
a little
guys,
I'm a little leery of that.
yeah,
Aren't you? Aren't
the
you?
elbow, yeah, no, I mean, they said that about Jeffrey Springs that it was just a stinger, right? And they said, oh, he lost feeling in his, but he should be fine. And then he gets Tommy John like a week later. So like you start talking about elbows. I know it's Oakland and it should be a good spot, but again, $300 more. Aaron Nola is sitting right there, and then I think even further down, how about Tyler Mahle going up against the Washington Nationals for $8,700?
Yeah,
Um,
that's not bad. You get some decent strikeout totals out of Molly. I mean, it's so amazing. Like such great talent from him, really live arm. But then all of a sudden he just loses his command and he hasn't been like it was weird. It was almost like he trusted his stuff more when he was pitching in Cincinnati or
right,
for the Reds than this move here to Minnesota. I'd still be interested in it. I'd be more interested. So, the tier that you were talking about, I do like Nola against Colorado, even though Colorado kind of burnt me on my Phillies bet
mm,
on Thursday. But Nola against them solid. I can get down with that. I'd pay the extra 300 and not have to worry about John Gray and his
right,
elbow.
right,
Molly is definitely in a good spot. To kind of float around there. But again, this is one of those slates where we can sit here and we can like pick and choose and dissect every single guy. Would you? Could you? I think really it's a matter of confidence.
right,
And where are you most confident? Like so far, I'm looking at this and it's like I'm already paying up for Ohtani. I know
correct,
that for a fact.
correct.
Because I don't want to go anywhere else on this slate. Yeah, could I pay down to Aaron Nola? Sure, I could. But one of the problems that I'm having with the Phillies right now, and that we have seen, is that while they get on, the weighted on base average for the Phillies, their offense is fantastic,
Right.
absolutely fantastic, and they do a great job. But they don't create runs off of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like they're not producing anything. You can have a 385 WOBA against right-handed pitching and put guys on base all you want. If you're not scoring those runs, if you know, your average with runners in scoring position is garbage, it's kind of a tough spot to be. So while I like Nola, I need to see these Philly bats wake up before I want to,
Right.
really kind of put my trust in him. So far it's like Ohtani at the top tier. And while I can screw around with the Nola, Molly, Bryce, but no, I don't even want to go to Bryce Elder.
Mm-mm,
Can't do,
mm-mm,
I can't do that, right? I mean, I was like
mm-mm.
Jared Schuster. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh boy, don't bring up that name on this podcast ever again.
So,
Um,
I mean, are there guys in this middle tier that you're like, I feel really confident about this matchup that I want to build my lineup around them? Because I don't even think with Molly going up against Washington, you would feel that confident in him.
I feel I feel good that he's at home. I feel good that he's a sizable favorite. Washington, as bad as they are, just doesn't really strike out all that much. Less than a 20% strikeout rate against righties. So like that's obviously not encouraging. They don't walk though, so like Molly can cruise through 7 innings with 5 strikeouts, and it wouldn't surprise me, right? Like we just saw Dean Kramer do the same thing 2 nights ago. Like that wouldn't surprise me. Or not Dean Kramer, Kyle Bradish. Sorry, Kyle Bradish did the same thing where strikeouts. It was a good outing. So I like Molly. I don't love anywhere, truthfully, Howard. Like I like Braxton Garrett. He's an arm that I like, but another team in Cleveland that just like doesn't strike out a whole lot. 666 OPS as a team against left-handed pitching, though. That is not good. 21st in the 21st in the league. So like I would take a flyer on Braxton Garrett. I think other than that start against the Mets where he still limited him just 2 runs, but 10 base runners didn't get through 5. He's looked pretty solid. He has swing and miss stuff. So I like Braxton Garrett at 69, but like nothing else really speaks to me. I mean, is Domingo
Nothing.
Herman going to use the sticky stuff again? Because if he is, then I'll use him. But if he's not, like we just saw Max Scherzer get suspended for 10 games, so clearly they're looking, right? So I don't think Domingo Herman's going to be using the sticky stuff again. Um, you mentioned Tyler Wells, like not crazy upside, Howard, but like what is your expectation for a floor with Tyler Wells? 6,200. He has mixed bag of results of 15, 14, and 8 fantasy points. He hasn't been crushed. The pitch count at 89 and 85 was pretty good the last two outings. I know that first outing he came in relief due to injury. I think that was the game that Bradish left and then Wells was an emergency
Yeah, he
reliever.
filled in. Yeah, it's listen, there's nothing really great or exciting about Tyler Wells. Not in
No,
any, I'm not gonna, I can't tout the guy. Depending on who the matchup is, and it's Detroit. So
right.
when I look at Detroit and what they do, they do have I mean it's like a 23-24% strikeout rate. So I'm hoping to get what I want. I want 5 innings, maybe an earned run or two, and give me 5 strikeouts. Give me a
Yep.
strikeout per inning. If you
Yep.
can give me that and have that chance at the win, because I mean it's Baltimore against Detroit, and I love this Baltimore lineup. I think we're in a good spot for that. Like, you're going to get strikeouts from Ohtani, and he's going to keep the ratios
Right.
down, and he's got a great chance at the win. He's at home against the Royals. So if Wells can get me either a win or like 5 strikeouts, 4 or 5 strikeouts, then I and go the 5 innings and even just get a chance at the win, then I think that I'm fine with that for 6,200, because I mean that right there, if you lock in Ohtani and Wells, you're still a little more than 4 grand per player
Yep.
for the rest of your lineup. And that's a good spot to be in, because we're going to dig up some value. That we're going to
Right.
sit there and we're going to be like, oh, look at this. This guy's at min price right now. And so that immediately it starts to open up a lot more doors for you to do it that way. I just, if there was a clear cut second higher price starter who I felt really good about, and I think the best one that you've mentioned so far that appeals to me would be Nola. But then, I mean, then I'm really digging for some value. And, you kind of have to hope that, whoever's doing the value article that day puts a home run hitter on the cover for you.
Well, let's just check this, Howard. Okay, we're just gonna skip ahead. I want to see. Oh, I get. Oh, hmm. I
Hmm.
wonder. I do want to check this. Okay, we're just gonna see what the value looks like because okay, he's 5,100. Good, great, great. Fernando Tatis, everyone is not $2,000 on this slate. We do not have to worry about it. If you were living under a rock on Thursday slate, Fernando Tatis was a 2K shortstop
How
on
great was that?
DraftKings.
I mean, he was the
Um,
most expensive guy on FanDuel, but DK had him at min. I
Stone
didn't,
Cold
I didn't
Min.
get that.
So good to see them adjust that price because I was going to say you could get Nola Otani if you had a 2K Fernando Tatis. Like that would have been okay. But to your point, if you were to go Nola Otani, $3,700 a player. If you go Tyler Wells, 4,100. Um, Howard, I got to ask. You mentioned the Giants against left-handed pitching, and you are correct. They are striking out a boatload against lefties. The New York Mets are calling up Joey Lucchesi to start
No,
against
no.
no interest. $5,400.
You're you're any Italian
5,400.
heritage, and you just went
Hey.
nuts because you didn't call him Joey Lucchesi. I know I can't, I can't get behind Lucchesi at all. I tried early on in his career, but it didn't work, and I'm not going to chance it. Mets are, on this big long road trip. I'm actually in, I was in on the Mets on for yesterday's game, saying that they could steal a game. But I mean, listen, even though they've won, they had won 6 out of 7 going into it. It's a long West Coast road trip when you're playing 3 full series in California, and then you got to travel back. So
Right.
I definitely don't know if I can invest. I'm not going to invest in Lucchesi. I can't do
Okay.
it. I
Okay.
can't.
Okay.
Don't make
Okay.
me.
I'm not. I was just asking. It's a good price. The Giants this year, Howard. You mentioned it earlier. 29.2% K rate against lefties. So, big strikeout rate. Lucchese has looked good at AAA this year. So, just throwing it out there. Is coming off Tommy John, first start in the majors since then. Let's shift over to the catcher spot, where I think typically is a good position to spend down. But man, Adley Rutschman against Michael Lorenzen looks pretty tasty. And Michael Lorenzen looked awful in his debut. I know it's in Baltimore, and that hasn't been the best place for hitters since they moved the walls back. But what do you think of Rutschman 5,500 going up against Michael Lorenzen here?
I mean, I love Adley Rutschman. I
Yep.
mean, I guess the real question is how are you viewing catcher on this slate? Are
Right.
there enough bigger players elsewhere that you really feel like you want to get in or you need to get in? I have such a hard time with 5,500. I mean, yes, Lorenzen as a lefty, not strong. I'm sure that Adley could definitely do some damage. I would definitely use him if I looked at the rest of this slate and wasn't enamored with any of the other high priced players who are out there.
Well, let's talk about the rest of the position then. So, um, I mean, I'm typically with you. I generally spend down at catcher. Mike Zaninu gets a lefty here. He has historically hit lefties well. William Contreras, 53 or $4,000 going up against Nick Pavetta. Jonah Heim gets a lefty, 3,600, and JP Sears. Like any of those names appeal to you? I kind of like Heim quite a bit this year. He's been very good, and he was very good last year, and then he wasn't. He just kind of fell off a cliff. I know he hit 2 home runs off Shohei Ohtani in one game. What do you make of Jonah Heim hitting 311 this year, 3,600 against Sears?
Yeah, listen, I like Jonah Heim a lot. I've got some fairly heavy investments in him against in season long fantasy. All of his power, I mean, all of his powers, 3 home runs have all come against, right-handed pitchers, but 333 batting average against Southpaws with a 446 WOBA. Those are
Hmm.
numbers that intrigue me. So if I'm gonna, end up paying down at the position like I would normally or want to, with a guy like Jonah Heim, yeah, as long as he's in there, he's got that upside for a home run that you want when it comes to when it comes to GPP playing. So man, where is his price tag? Holy cow!
3,600.
Yeah, there it is. Okay,
It's pretty
I was
good.
like, I was looking around. I was like, wait, is he? Oh,
Over 1,000 OPS over his last 10 games, 940 on the year. I like John Heim here.
I like him too.
Going down the catcher position, getting into the punt territory is probably where we're going to go next. I think there's a couple of guys that are intriguing. The ever so infrequent lineup uh, finder, Francisco Alvarez. Will he be in the lineup? Who knows? But 2,900.
So
Um,
frustrating.
yeah, very frustrating. Um, Kyle Higashioka, someone who historically hits lefties well, he gets Yusei Kikuchi, who, has had a lot of trouble with power. Gabriel Moreno, 2,400. Any of those punts interest you at all?
It's so funny. Like I like Moreno a lot. I like the player. He's
Yep.
off to such a horrible start right now. That probably not. McCann as just a
Okay.
complete throwaway if he's playing, but I mean, if they DH Adley, then I wouldn't mind throwing a little something at with McCann. I think that he's in a pretty good spot as well. But yeah, I'm looking at it here. I think I like your Alvarez pick. Jose Trevino against Kikuchi could definitely be interesting. I might even go Sabal if he's in the
Hmm.
lineup against Lucchese. I do not like Joey Lucchese as a pitcher, so that could
Okay.
actually intrigue me there if we really wanted to punt.
Yeah, and honestly, if Sable's not in the lineup, what is Joey Bart's price? Joey Bart, 2,200. gets the righty lefty match. Whichever San Francisco catcher there
Yeah,
could be
whichever San
in
Fran
play.
catcher. Sure.
Joey Bart off to a pretty good start. I mean, he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Buster Posey, right? That was the plan, and sometimes plans go accordingly, sometimes they don't. But
That's all Bay Area hype. It's all Bay Area. It was, because you have a guy like Buster Posey who comes up and and all of a sudden the Giants are winning World Series that they immediately think it doesn't matter who the next guy is. He's gonna be the next Buster Posey. He's
right.
gonna be. So
fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
don't know.
Anything else?
Are we building a lineup as we go on here? You're locking in Ohtani there?
Well, no, I had Ohtani. Well, I mean, we're probably gonna lock in Ohtani, but like, I had the Ohtani Wells for the people to see. It was 4,100, and then I did the Ohtani Nola, which was 3,700 a player, just to see the difference. I mean, we can if you do. Do you feel comfortable with Ohtani Wells as the initial? Look, I think you and I both
would give
settled
it a
in on.
whirl.
Okay, we'll go Ohtani Wells. Let's build it. Let's finish the rest of it at the end. I just had Ohtani clicked because that was just usually like when John and I come across someone, we're like, yes, we just hit that lock button. The little boop, that's the button right there.
All right. I've got your. By the way, I've got your pay down from behind the plate for if you really want to go dirt cheap.
Let's hear it.
How about Matt Theus from the Angels?
Ooh,
Logan O'Hoppe left Thursday night with a shoulder injury. He's not going to end up playing. And then Max Stassi is also banged up as well. So he's on the IL. So Matt Theus, the left-handed, bat he's the only catcher who's sitting on the roster. I mean, unless they make a move and they bring somebody up, but are they going to bring up a rookie catcher off of AAA, or are they going to let Theus catch for them tomorrow or today? Sorry.
I mean, I assume it's Theus catching. They are going to use Ryan Yarbrough, they being the Royals, as the bulk reliever. Does that take you off a little bit because it's lefty-lefty, or are you still okay going Theus?
Yeah, I'm not a lefty on lefty crime guy.
Yeah, Taylor Clark is going to start. And look, maybe if Theus gets an at bat against Taylor Clark here, Howard. Last time he appeared in a game, 4 runs, 3 earned in 1 inning. So if Theus could get an at bat here against Taylor Clark, maybe. But it looks like he's going to see a bulk of his at bats against Ryan Yarbrough. So maybe we pocket that one for Saturday's slate.
I guess so.
Let's move on to first base, where we have a plethora of top spend ups. Paul Goldschmidt, 5,900 against George Kirby. Matt Olson against Hunter Brown, 5,800. Vladdy Guerrero against the sticky stuffless Domingo Germán. Pete Alonso, Anthony DeSclafani, and CJ Cron against Aaron Nola. What is your flavor there in the 5K tier, Howard?
I mean, my flavor is always Matt Olson. I love Matt Olson. Left-handed bat, big power left-handed bat, going up against Hunter Brown, who, let's face it, Hunter Brown hasn't shown, the pinpoint command that they really want and they need. Right. So, I mean, I love paying up over there. I love, I'll do Olson or I'll do Pete Alonso going up against DeSclafani. I know that's a little bit more risky just because DeSclafani, I think, is just a more seasoned veteran than Hunter Brown. And I think that's kind of why I tilt towards Olson because, veteran bat versus, a kid who's struggling with his command usually means good stuff.
The only thing with Olson is the strikeouts are getting up there. So 31 in 19 games. It hasn't obviously impacted him in the power department, or 20 RBIs in 19 games. But if Hunter Brown is on, we could be looking at 3 strikeouts for Matt Olson here. I like Alonso as a contrarian play. He can homer against literally any pitcher in the league. He's a psychopath. I know we're both Yankees. This is right now. I'm so happy to have this Boston Red Sox stuff away from me for a couple nights here, Howard. I have to deal with it again with Henry Wilson, who I found out today was sporting that Boston Red Sox cap. It was. I mean, I just can't escape it. So I'm so happy to have you here. But Domingo Germán is the pitcher that we saw 5 days ago, that is not Domingo Germán. And I think we both can agree to that. Vladdy in Yankee Stadium really speaks to me. Again, I think Domingo Germán is going to be heavily checked by the umpires, especially with how weird everything played out last week, because almost the same situation happened with Max Scherzer. One was allowed to go pitch, one was suspended for 10 games. So like something happened with Domingo Germán where they just were like, yeah, buddy, you can go back out there and pitch. But he is not very good. Righties, 1.4 home runs per 9 innings last year. The ground ball rate against righties was pretty good. I just like home runs to fly ball, 18% last year. Like if Vladdy puts one in the air against Domingo Germán at Yankee Stadium, he's leaving. He's leaving the park. So I like Vladdy. I would probably put him up on the same tier as Olsen and Alonso personally. So I don't think you can go wrong, really, is what we're saying at that tier. What about the tier below them, Howard? Mountcastle, France, Nathaniel Lowe, Anthony Rizzo at Yankee Stadium, but he gets a lefty. Like, who's your favorite play in this for under 5K tier?
Under 5K. I mean, listen, I like Joey Gallo.
Look who I had pulled up. Look who I had pulled up. Oh.
I mean, if you're looking for big power possibilities here, going up against the a right-handed pitcher, for 4,200, that there's always big home run potential for him. So that's definitely the first place I'll look. I'll definitely move down. I'm not going to trust in Baum or, like you said, Rizzo, lefty on lefty. So Gallo right there is the is one of the guys who I want to take a look at. You know what? I also like, if you want to go a little further down, I'm still a fan of Rowdy Tellez.
Love him.
I'm still a fan of Rowdy Tellez. And I think that, the thing about Tellez is that his home runs come in bunches, and you're waiting for that. Just, he's going to go off, and I'll check the weather and see what's going on. And is the roof going to be open in Milwaukee? Or are they going to keep it closed? How's that going to look? Like, Tellez is a guy who I'm going to keep my eyes on often.
John and I say this about Milwaukee all the time, Howard, that they are like, when they're bad, they are really bad. And you can shut them down, shut them out. But when their offense is clicking, they're going to put 10 runs on your head. And it's going to be 4 RBIs coming from Rowdy Tellez. I mean, we've already seen 3 times this year Milwaukee scored 10 plus runs. They've also been shut out twice already this year. So like, they are a boom or bust offense for me. But I love Rowdy Tellez 4K. Unfortunately, I guess the days of him being like 3,400 are beyond us. Shout out to DraftKings for catching up to the pricing there. Much like you did with Fernando Tatis on this Friday slate. I gotta tell you, Howard, under 4K, if we're gonna attack Lucchesi, Wilmer Flores, 3,600, well-known lefty smasher, or at least it was earlier in his career, and the splits have kind of come back to more even from both sides of the plate. But Wilmer Flores, 3,600, is not too shabby.
He's got a little pop in his bat if you are going to pay down at first base, which I got to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of often.
You're a spend up exclusively at first and
third?
No,
not exclusively. Every once in a while, I'll try for like a bargain bat, somebody that, is kind of off the, off the beaten path. But, yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's kind of funny. We were talking about catcher. Would I rather spend up for Adley Rutschman or pay down at the catcher position? Would I rather spend up for Matt Olson or Adley Rutschman? I think I'd rather spend up for Matt Olson. So I kind of linger in that area there. You look at these guys who are under 4K, and yeah, yes, could something happen? Could somebody, find the way? Could Wilmer Flores beat up Lucchesi? Yes, he definitely could. But I liked using Wilmer Flores in DFS much more when he qualified at like middle infield positions. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know if like Wilmer Flores is the home run bat I really want to chase if I'm paying down at first.
Is there anybody at first that you would pay down for? Like, is there anything that's popping out to you that you would not
Um,
pay up for Olson or Joey Gallo?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I definitely could. I could consider a number of things strictly because of what's sitting out there at second base. Is there a high price guy, or is there a guy who I want to utilize at second base? Um, and if that's the case, then maybe if I have to pay down, I go to Cronenworth. I gotta tell you, man,
Hmm.
the fact that the Padres are going to be batting him fifth behind Tatis, Machado, Soto, and
But
Bogarts.
yeah, Bogarts, yeah.
So and you're gonna give me you telling me that by the time a pitcher gets through those top four guys, that he's not just gonna be like, I'm just gonna drill a fastball to Cronenworth. I'm so fucking tired right now. Oh, I didn't mean to swear. But you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So
No,
Cronenworth might be an interesting option.
and he's had a slate breaking out. He's already had a slate breaking performance this year too. 415 against Milwaukee when he double donged, 6 RBIs. So yeah, I agree. 3,500. And to your point, multi-position eligibility if you want to play him over at second base as well. And speaking of second base, that's where we're headed.
Dun, dun, dun,
To a
dun.
Marcus Simeon, $5,700. Now, John and I have much differing opinions on Marcus Simeon. John thinks that Marcus Simeon just has like 1 month a year where he does everything. And I'm not saying he's completely wrong, but I
Mhm.
think it's at least 2 months of the year that Marcus Simeon does everything. Where he just, where you see when you're looking at the end of the year, like, oh, Marcus Simeon, 35 and 25 this year. That's a great year. Right now is one of those months. Marcus Simeon over the last 10 games, 366, 435, 659 slash, 15 ribbies, 6 extra base hits, 1 stolen base, little left to be desired, but I could see myself getting to Simeon. We've already talked about Jonah Heim. Are the Rangers an interesting stack here against JP Sears?
Marcus Simeon doesn't hit lefties well.
Yeah, he is one of those weirdos that is a reverse splits guy.
Yeah, he doesn't hit lefties well at all. I mean, listen, because I would normally be interested in him. You know what my problem is with this Texas lineup really is more in the line of, as soon as Corey Seager went down, they just immediately, it was like their bats started to go dormant.
Right.
And I mean, I get that he's an integral part, but I mean, you guys got to spice it up a little bit here. So against the lefty, I don't know if I want to pay up 5,700 for Simeon. Now all of a sudden I'm thinking, all right, well, maybe I pay, maybe I get Cronenworth here and use him at second,
Hmm.
and then get Adley Rutschman and and Matt Olson into my lineup.
I like that. And we haven't even gotten to shortstop, outfield, third base, where there's going to be a jillion more 5K plus players, especially third base. That's typically a spend up spot. Outfield, we know there's going to be everyone under the sun. Well, where else are we looking at second base? Bryson Stott has been pretty good at top the Phillies lineup. He
Mm-hmm.
has some stolen base equity. He's still under 4K. I like Glaber Torres if you want to pay against Kikuchi. I don't have a problem getting there. He's kind of cooled off since his hot start. Talk to me about the rest of the second base position, Howard. Like, how are you feeling about these guys?
You know who I really like, and I think this is a great matchup. And I know you were talking about Braxton Garrett before. If I'm like, if I don't want to pay up for Simeon, and I don't want to pay all the way down, say for like Cronenworth, who's only 3,500, Andres Jimenez, I think, kind of sits in that middle end of the pocket. He hits lefties very well. He's
Yep.
got that speed element now, also that we're, that suddenly this year we're coveting that. Now all of a sudden it's not just about who's got the double dong potential here. It's like, hey, can this guy steal me 2 bags in a
Right.
game? Because if he can, I'll rack up my points that way. So Jimenez actually kind of gives me he gives me all the feels.
Well, shout out Nico Horner. You just spoke so glowingly about him. Just kidding. Yeah, I like Jimenez. He hits lefties well. Listen, I'm not like sold on Braxton Garrett. He's been okay. He allowed 9 hits in one of his start. Like Jimenez could have 3 of those and a stolen base, right? So,
Dude, you
um,
showed me before we started doing this broadcast. You showed me a Braxton Garrett jersey that you have at home. So come on, don't lie. Don't tell it. Don't say that you're not some big Braxton Garrett fan. Don't lie.
well, it was a gift, okay? Um, any punts down here? Edward Julian interest you? He's been pretty good. If he hits we've seen him hit everywhere. He hit 5th the other night when he went 3 for 4 with a home run. Trevor Williams is awful against left-handed bats.
Yes.
Is Julian interesting? Because I think even like talking through this, Minnesota Gallo at first was a good price. They have some good lefties, 2 in the outfield we're going to get to as well.
Yeah, but I think you know what I mean. It's a guy who I was on the show with John the other day, and a guy who he pointed out that obviously clicked for us, when we wanted to use him,
Right.
was Mauricio Dubon.
Hmm.
He's 3,200. He's batting leadoff. And I mean, he was on like he's on like an 8 or a 9 game hit streak right now.
It's in all but one game. The first game of the year, his first game played, he's hit in every game since. So he has a 14-game hitting streak going.
I mean, it's great because you've been able to use him as a relative punt play and not worry
Right.
about it. He does not stuff the stat sheet enough. That's the only
Mhm.
problem with him, is that it's like a 1 for 4, 1 for 5, 1 for 4, 1 for 4, and maybe there's a run scored or maybe there's an RBI. So there's not a lot of meat to it, which is disappointing. But you'd think that hey, maybe a couple extra runs scored, hitting above this lineup, I think is definitely a possibility. He's
Yeah, I
still
mean,
a base.
yeah, he needs to do a little. Let's get a double. Just mix in a double, not even just a single. Like let's mix in a double there too.
I like
At
it.
third,
Uh-huh.
I mean, just absolutely loaded. Rafael Devers he's been great. I don't know why people pitched him, but they do. Jose Ramirez, although he's been better from the left side of the plate, he is hitting righty here. He's been better lately. The power wasn't there. It's suddenly arriving. Austin Riley has been a monster. Nolan Arenado was better against righties last year. Historically, been better against lefties. And Matt Chapman, 5,100, has been just mashing baseballs.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the 5K tier, or do we not need to spend up and we need to just move down to the middle tier?
I mean, how do you not love the names that are sitting there? I mean, Jose
Right.
Ramirez against Braxton Garrett, I think, is a fantastic matchup. Austin Riley, yeah, obviously, I'd prefer to see Riley against the lefty to get that big matchup. Arenado's been struggling a little bit, kind of a little slower start than usual for
Yep.
Arenado. So I'd probably just, I'd look at, if I'm going to look at Arenado, I might as well just look at Matt Chapman and save $400.
Agreed.
I mean, it's Domingo Herman. There's chances that he blows up. There are chances you were talking about using Vladdy earlier. If he can get under one, I mean, I think that's a reasonable stack to explore. So I mean, Chapman's probably Jose Ramirez for me against Garrett, I think, is a nice one. Chapman against Herman is probably a good situation as well.
Yeah, those are my two favorites. Blue Jays are just expensive. That's the only problem. If you're
Yeah.
playing Otani, it's going to be tough to get, I think, the entire Blue Jay stack. So it might just be like a 2-pack, or um, maybe you can add a third somewhere if the Blue Jays have a value play that pops up. In the mid tier, my eyes immediately go to Eugenio Suarez
Oh
against
my
a
God, I was
lefty.
just looking at him.
That's where did we just become best friends? Eugenio,
Velociraptor.
yeah, he has been incredibly good over the last few years against lefty. I mean, just from the power standpoint, and Steven Matz has been. I mean, I think,
Steven Matz.
yeah, he's been Steven Matz, right? I thought the ballpark shift that he got going to St. Louis would help him, and it just hasn't. What do you think of Suarez 4K? I mean, we're paying like got up to like 4,500. Now it's dipped down to 4K. I think this price is pretty good for a power bat like
Yeah,
Suarez.
I like Suarez a lot in here against Mats. I don't think Mats is a guy who can keep the ball in the ballpark. And Suarez, yeah, it's that nice power potential that you've got. 4K, it's a good mid-tier price. I mean, we could look to pay down even further. I mean, where do you want to go? You want to take a chance on Gunnar Henderson? Probably not. VR from San Francisco? No, probably not. So yeah, I'm kind of in that spot right there where I think Suarez is probably the lowest I would really want to go. Although I don't
Here
know,
it is.
Jose Miranda,
Here's the third
2,700.
base. Here's the third base spin down right here.
Give it
You
to me.
want to go? Prep 80, $2,200.
Oh yeah,
$2,200
yeah,
Prep 80. I mean, look,
yes,
Viscofani is good, and Beatty didn't start with Sean Manaea on the mound Thursday, but he's $2,200, right? Like
yes.
that's a we need value. If we're playing Ohtani and we're gonna get some high price guys, Brett Beatty 2,200 I think makes a lot of sense.
I love that call. I love that call.
Let's shift our focus to shortstop, where Fernando Tatis is $5,100 and not 2,000, and he's also outfield eligible. Outfield eligible, which I love. I think that's the correct decision because that's where he's going to be playing. What do we have up here at 5K and above range here, Howard? I love. Listen again, the Brewers. I love Brewers in tournaments. Willie Adames at home. Willie Adames against righties. I love Milwaukee in tournaments. The problem is that's what they are. They are tournament plays only because they are. It's very hard to predict. He would probably be my favorite shortstop over 5K. I don't love the other matchups. Bichette again, like same thing could be said about Bichette as the other Toronto guys, but like
Hmm.
you just can't afford them. You just can't afford all of them at least.
Yeah. And normally I'd be in on Bogarts a little lower, but not against Zach Gallen. So I
Yep.
think Adamas is a nice spot to be in if you're gonna pay up at the position. Um yeah, it's a tough position to pay up in.
Yeah, and then like the next tier down, I think Correa is in a good spot, but like
Hmm.
I just there's something that I just tells me I don't want to pay $4,700 for Carlos Correa just coming off the offseason with the injuries and the medical stuff and like I haven't really lost not playing Carlos Correa either. He's hitting 200, so like if you're playing a twin stack, he's okay. Jeremy Pena, the speed has been what's really saved his fantasy season so far. 4 stolen bases in his last 10 games. Do the Cardinals lead Tommy Edman off again? Coming off of his best game ever as a pro, falling a single shy of a cycle, 5 RBIs. Like, where are we going at shortstop, Howard? Anthony Volpe still under. It's probably Volpe, right? Under 4K,
Um
leading off against Kikuchi.
yeah. I mean, that's definitely, listen, obviously, especially because you just love doing that Volpe Judge
Oh, it's
1-2
so
punch.
nice.
John and
Oh,
I did that in our lineup the other day, and we were just like, oh yes, thank you so much. Volpe, he like leads off with a hit, and Aaron Judge
right,
knocks him in. It's like, thank you so much. Appreciate
right.
that. I love that at 3,700. I'll tell you what, the play that I'm kind of interested in here is Zach Nito,
Okay,
actually.
okay.
3 grand. Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with him with the lefty, but because you said there's a long reliever coming in who's gonna handle the
Yep.
bulk of the work.
Yeah, Ryan Yarbrough expected to be the bulk pitcher
Yeah.
on
But
Friday.
so I don't really, that doesn't bother me that much.
Yep.
It's still a lefty righty matchup for Zach Nito. I was watching him play the other day, and when he smacked 2 doubles, and
Yep.
all of a sudden you were like, oh,
Right.
okay. Now he's got now he's got his stroke, and he's
Right.
he's kind of feeling it. It's a tough matchup, obviously, when you're, starting off, and you're facing the Red Sox and the Yankees for your very first 2 series. Like, what a dream come true for like any kid, right?
Right.
Amazing.
Right.
So to look at him at 3 grand, if we if we wanted to pay down at shortstop so that we could bulk up in the outfield, Nito is probably a guy who I would eyeball.
Agreed. And I think there's not much else down here. Oswald Peraza, if he cracks the lineup for the Yankees again, I expect him to with the delay in Josh Donaldson's return.
Hmm.
If you're playing Yankee stacks, Peraza is a second base shortstop eligible player. Hitting sixth, pretty good spot in the lineup. Like, it's not like correlated all too well with your Judge Volpe, Rizzo, or however you want to play Glaber, but hitting sixth is a pretty good spot in the lineup. So uh, I don't hate Oswald Peraza. And then we head to outfield, where we have five players listed at 6K or and above. We have 25 more players listed at 5K or above, Howard. So I'll just ask, like, it's too hard to like break down every one of these guys. There's just too many. If you had to pick like one of the 6K guys and a couple of your favorite 5K guys, who would those players be? Because like, yeah, it's easy. I could just say, yeah, I want to play Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and Kyle Schwarber. Yeah, so does everybody else. Like, who would be your favorite view of this 5K and above tier?
For 5K, well, 5K and
We'll do
above.
we'll do just six. We could narrow it down. You could pick your favorite from 6K, then you pick a couple favorite from 5K. However you want to assess this top tier as a whole.
All right, I'll go Aaron Judge against Kikuchi.
Agreed, 100%, and not
Uh,
none non-biased Yankee podcast here.
no, listen, man, I
Agrees.
love Acuna. I love Jordan Alvarez. And obviously, who doesn't love Mike Trout?
Right,
But I'm gonna, Judge. You've got that power.
right.
He's hitting in a strong lineup. They put up 9 runs yesterday on the
Yep.
Angels. So, I think that I think Judge going up against the lefty and Kikuchi is rock solid. And then my next favorite one, and I don't think I'll be able to get both these guys in there, but maybe I can. Maybe if I go Aaron Judge, and what about Julio Rodriguez against
Oh
Steven
yeah.
Matz?
Oh yeah. It's J Rod season, Howard. It's J Rod season.
It's J-Rod season. Unfortunately, it's not going to work for my lineup here.
Right.
Even with like some super, super cheap paydowns, I can't get Judge and Julio Rodriguez in there because that only leaves me $800 for my last outfielder.
Well, if this was 2019 and Chris Davis was still around, when DraftKings made him $600 every night when he was like 0 for 59 or
See,
whatever it
yeah,
was,
I would make that move.
you would play it because you're like, well, then I could get Judge and Otani and Julio Rodriguez. Unfortunately, Chris Davis $600 ain't walking through that door. But I
No, it's
do
not.
I do love Julio Rodriguez 59. Any love for like Jazz Chisholm 54 going up against Plesac or Adolis Garcia, another guy that seemingly just ends up 30-25, and you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna draft Adolis Garcia early again next year. Like, I mean, I mean, the Adolis Garcia thing is crazy because like you looked at his numbers, you're like, oh, there's no way. Wait a second, 30 and how many stolen bases? 25.
it's mind numbing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Any love for like this next tier of guys or like Buxton 5K? Like I kind of like Buxton 5K too.
I mean, Buxton at 5K. We could talk about Tatis at 5,100. I think
Mm,
that that's definitely a solid price tag for him. But yeah, I mean, I would look down in that area. I like Buxton against Williams. I think that's going to be a nice matchup for sure. I'm not going to trust Philly's bats right now, even though I want to desperately. I just can't do it.
right.
So, man, no, I think I'm kind of out on this tier as far as like, the low 5K kind of guys. I think that's really I think I'm like Tatis Buxton, but it's about it.
I think the next tier is gonna change a little bit. At least your opinion is gonna change it. We're gonna talk Brewers because Christian Yelich sits here, and I know he hasn't been great, but I do think Nick Pivetta is a can, and Yelich, when he goes off, he always is a part of these 10-run outings. He's in the middle of it. He's leading off, whatever. 4,800. Teoscar Hernandez is a certified lefty masher, and that just brings us to more Seattle. We've now talked about Eugenio, J Rod, and Teoscar, who had astronomical numbers against lefties last year.
Yeah.
I kind of like both those guys. Dalton Varsho, 4,400 against Domingo Herman. You could play Joey Gallo in the outfield if you don't play him at first base. Corbin Carroll, $4,200. I am a diehard Corbin Carroll guy. I love that he's hitting third now too, after whatever Arizona decided to do, hitting him like seventh to start the year. I like this 4K tier quite a bit, Howard.
Yeah, I do as well. I think it's a really nice spot to be in. Yeah, I mean, starting with Teoscar, I'm 100% in on Teoscar with you. I like that a lot. Yoshida's a guy who I always kind of keep in my back pocket, although they're pricing him up a little bit more. But Gallo, yeah, we talked about using Gallo at first base for 4,200. I think that's a super nice spot to be in. And depending on where they've got him in the lineup, you could probably do like a little mini stack there. If you wanted to pass on the Judge Julio Rodriguez level of player, and you wanted to just stick in this kind of mid 4K range, I think that, doing like a Buxton Gallo, or try and go cheaper. I mean, depending on how they've got it all set up, I don't know usually where they put Trevor Larnach into that lineup against a right-hander. I think is an interesting spot to be as well.
Yeah, him and Kepler still just hitting in the middle of their lineup. So I think the lefty bats are definitely appealing here because, again, Trevor Williams, power to Trevor Williams, but can't get lefties out. Anything under 4K that really stands out? Like, I need to play who under 4K?
I need to play somebody. Well, let's see.
They don't have to exist. Maybe someone that you and I debated on a little bit during the.
What? You want to go lefty on lefty crime with Jared Kelenic?
He's been hitting. I mean, he's hitting everybody. Lefties. He's hitting righties. And always, if he's not in the lineup, AJ Pollock will start, and then Jared Kelenic will come in for him and probably hit a home run. Are you hiding? We're hiding lefty?
I am, because I love Kelenic, and I've been talking about him. I talked about him on the Fantasy Alarm show with Jim Bowden a bunch. Just the whole notion of that post type sleeper, the guy who's completely disappointed you, and then all of a sudden, everybody's out on him, and suddenly the guy, the talent does eventually show up. So I think Kelnic's an interesting spot there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna love on the lefty on lefty action.
Okay.
For that, but I think that he's in a really good spot. That you could kind of get away with it.
Howard, you know what's gross, man?
Tell me.
Robbie, gross man. And that's the end of the pod. I'm just we just got a couple we got a couple minutes here, Howard. You were building a lineup during this, weren't you?
I was.
All right, so let's hear it. So, did you use Brett Beatty and Zach Nato? Were those your two spend downs? I feel like those were your two spend downs at third and shortstop.
Well, yeah, I had to spend down at catcher as well.
Okay. All right, so let's hear the lineup you were building.
Oh yeah, this is a garbage lineup, and I won't be using this at all. However, don't look at me like that.
I'm just waiting.
I don't want people to be like, "Oh, dude, I'm totally taking Bender's lineup and I'm going to throw that in there." No. Ohtani and Wells.
Okay.
All right. Jose Trevino behind the plate.
Okay. And I think that goes, and I think you can make a case for Higashioka because he does play against lefties too. So I think we'll find out.
Yeah. Listen, I can go to Higashioka.
Whoever. Well, I like Trevino too. I'm just saying whoever the starting catcher is.
Whoever's
for the
catching for the Yankees. Yes, that's the way. And I was just kind of, I was just throwing that in there just for the, for the spend down and go from there. I mean, I could technically. I mean, do I want to try Francisco Alvarez and see if this dude actually like connects with the ball?
Probably not.
I could fit him.
Probably not.
All right. Well, then I'll stick with Trevino, and then I'll tell you, Matt Olson.
Okay.
Jake Cronenworth.
Okay.
Brett Beatty, Zach Neto, Aaron Judge, Julio Rodriguez,
Ooh,
and Trevor Larnach.
let's go. We got both. We got both spend ups. I like this, and you got Olsen. I like it. It's a first look again. Everyone in FA Nation here at the Better Sports Network. This is the first look podcast. First look lineup build. Like things are going to change throughout the day. Lines are going to change. People could not be in lineups. But our lineup here, I'm going to use. We're using this, Howard. This is going live. This is public now. Everyone can use it. But again, this is the first look. No real stacks here. Yeah, little Yankees here and there, but I love it, Howard. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I mean, listen, I'm on the playbook today, so I'm gonna dive, more than just this right now. I'm gonna be like head first in there. So shortly after our broadcast here, I should probably have the playbook out reasonably quickly, just so that we can start kind of playing around with different things. I do want to take a look and see. I'm a mini stack guy. I'm not like a full blown stack. 3-4 guys from two lineups and go with that. I like doing like the pairs, like a couple
Okay.
of like 2-player stacks that I'm going to kind of eyeball and look into there and see that, who I can kind of mix and match around here, who might intrigue me a little bit, just depending on the situation.
Okay. Well, that does it for Howard and I. Um, Unfortunately, John will be back Monday. I'm just kidding. John will be back Monday. As long as his Vegas, as long as there's not a stepbrother moment and he's lost in Vegas and there's a Tiger and Mike Tyson and all that stuff. But for Howard and James, everyone have a good weekend. We'll be back. Me and Henry Wilson will be back on the live stream 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You could then go over to SiriusXM, catch Howard Bender on the Fantasy Alarm Show, 6 to 8 with Jim Bowden. For Howard, for James, we'll catch you guys next time.